So there's this great quote. I've used it in a different video, but I'm going to use it again because, again, it's just an awesome quote. And it says, "A strong woman can do anything by herself, but a strong man doesn't let her." Okay. So one of the things that I've seen in all these relationship discussions is the issue of the man leading, in the relationship, and women allowing that to happen. And I get a lot of pushback, or I hear a lot of pushback of women saying, "Well, why can't we lead each other? Why does anyone have to lead?" And all these different things. And I completely understand where everybody is coming from. But I felt that it was important to really lay down the benefits of letting a man lead so that women could see, those who are still resistant to it, how this is actually going to be in their better interest. Okay. Now, again, don't jump to negative conclusions. Don't assume negative. Don't take this as an attack on women. And like the quote said, this in no way implies that you as a woman are not capable of handling things or doing anything. None of that. It's not undermining you in any kind of way. It's all about, okay, but is that really going to be best for you in the long run in a long term committed relationship and marriage? With that said, let's get to one of the big reasons why, or one of the big benefits of letting a man lead you. And that is, it takes the burden of it off your back. So, I, as someone who's an entrepreneur and has had to lead in many areas of my life, one of the things that I realize is that I don't think people understand the responsibility, pressure, and stress that can come with leadership, right? Now, again, I know some of you are saying, but what about co-leadership? I'll address co-leadership before this video is over. But in general, leadership is a lot on people, which is why, whether it's sports, whether it's work, whatever the case may be, everyone is not quick to jump up and have to be the leader, okay? Because there's the pros and there's the cons. There's the glory, but there's I don't want to say the shame, but the defeat of it, whatever you want to call it. And over time, when you're having to deal with making the decisions and handling things, that stuff can wear you down. Like I point out to people, I've seen many multimillionaires and billionaires talk about how like they pretty much wear the same thing every day, right? And one of the reasons why is because they're trying to eliminate the small decisions. They're trying to leave room, trying to leave energy for the big decisions that are much more important for them, right? And so I make that point to you to say this: as a woman, if you don't embrace the man leading, and whether it's you co-leading or you end up having to lead, which many times when it starts off as co-leadership, it turns into the woman basically leading, you are taking on the heavier burden because you already, as a woman, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, you guys are already processing a lot. Your minds are looking at or running super fast. If let's say you have kids, you have work, you have all these different things that you have to handle, and that can be mentally exhausting. And to then have to be in a relationship where now when something goes wrong or something needs to be handled, you now have to deal with that too. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. But to have a man who can lead, who can handle those things, who can make decisions, but yes, still consider your input, still discuss with you, but take on the burden and responsibility of it, that's a blessing. That's a blessing. And I think that if more women understood that, they would be less resistant to the issue. Because again, it is not rendering you incapable. But is this where you are going to be able to thrive? Is this going to really allow you to live to your fullest if you have to deal with all these different things rather than at least taking some things off your plate? All right. So essentially, letting that man lead you removes that stress. Now, let me also say something about stress. Stress is the number one inducer of disease. Okay. So many people's issues, physical ailments, and problems start with too much stress. So anything you can do to relieve some stress is going to be good. Now, for some of you, you might say to me, well, letting him lead is stressing you out. That might be the problem for you. And to that, I'm going to say, okay, listen, part of making this work is making sure you choose the right guy who is capable and can be trusted in that role, right? But outside of that, you got to understand that you want to try to do your best to free up your energy for the other things that you need to handle. And leading in the relationship is one of those things that I think relinquishing will do you a lot of good. All right, so another benefit to letting a man lead you is that it will increase your ability to attract a leader and not a leech. Okay? So a lot of women in their resistance to a man leading don't realize that, one, they tend to end up giving off or putting out more masculine energy. Okay? And as I've told you guys in many videos, that masculine energy can repel that masculine man, but it will draw in that man who might be more passive, who is willing to let you lead. And you got to look at it this way. Willing to let you lead means willing to let you take on the burden. Okay? So don't look at the positive, because some people are like, oh, okay, well, he's letting me lead. No, that means he's going to put it on your plate. So that's the guy that when you need him to step up and make a decision, he's incapable. That's who you're more likely to attract if your mindset is already resistant to a man leading. And so this is one of the points of frustration for a lot of women, because even in the co-leadership mindset, you end up, because let me put it like this. The man who is capable of leading, who is in his masculine, who can handle his business, who can be leaned on, he's not going to, in many cases, not all, but in many cases, he's not really on that co-leadership thing either, right? He, if anything, he wants to lead, not because, again, he's trying to control you or run your life, because he wants to be able to pour that love into you, of handle those things for you, taking that issue off your plate, right? And also because, listen, he's used to doing it for himself. He's confident in his ability to do that. So he would like to live in that role, so to speak. So that kind of guy, if your mentality is resistant to leadership, well, there's going to be clashes from the jump, right? So even if you meet that kind of guy, even if there is an initial attraction, there tends to be conflict because you guys are not on the same page. However, again, the leech, the guy who doesn't mind giving you the burden, the guy who doesn't mind riding your coattails, well, yeah, he's all happy for your leadership. Because if anything, that guy, he needs your resources and stability more than anything. So he will give up leadership role responsibilities, even if he wanted it, because he knows he can't be saying too much when he needs you to be handling things for him. And so again, in the long run, for so many women, it becomes such a frustrating thing to deal with, because a lot of women, even if in this moment right now, they feel like they should be the leader or they should co-lead or whatever, right? Look at them years later and they're like, okay, I'm over it. I don't want to do this anymore. Okay, I signed up for it initially, but this is too much, right? There comes a point where there's like, okay, I want to be able to rely on this man. But unfortunately, because he hasn't had to live in that role, he hasn't mastered those skills or developed those skills. So now when those stressful moments come up, that decisions need to be made, and let's say you have too much going on, so you need him to handle it, he's just like, well, what do you want to do? He cannot be trusted to make wise decisions, because decision making is something you have to practice. You have to get good at it. You have to understand how to properly process the information, or how to cross your T's, dot your I's, right? You got to do your due diligence. And if you're not used to having to take that approach because you haven't had to lead in those ways, well, when the time comes, you don't know what to do with yourself. And that person will feel like more of a burden to the woman. So yes, you're if you don't want that in the long run, it's just another reason to reconsider your position on a man leading. But attracting that man who can handle it is definitely a huge benefit to changing this mindset. Now, before we continue on to the next point, quickly, I want to give you an opportunity to get my program, How to Choose a Man. It is a powerful program that is helping so many women learn how to vet men more effectively so they can get rid of the wrong ones as quickly as possible and be able to receive the right one and nurture that situation. It, you're going to love it. Click the link in the description or in the comment section. Now, another big benefit to letting a man lead you is that it will pour confidence and speak to his masculine energy. Okay? Pour confidence into him. So when I study relationships, I'm always looking at long-term effects of things, how things play out over the long run, because I think a lot of people sometimes give advice and guidance based on the now without considering the ramifications or the effects over time. Okay? And what I have found is this, and this is just one example. Any relationship where the man has to lead or is the leader, I have never seen him complain about being a leader unless he feels like his efforts are not appreciated. All right. If he feels like he's not appreciated, he's not respected, and he's not having his needs met, it's not that he has a problem with having to be the leader and handle business and make decisions. It's just that he feels like he's not getting, what he would hope in return. You know what I'm saying? As trying to be a good husband, a good man, a good boyfriend, whatever the case may be. On the flip side, if I see a relationship where a woman has to be the leader, right? Over the long run, I'm not going to say never, but I have yet to meet the woman who over years is like, oh no, I'm perfectly happy leading this relationship. Like and not I'm okay with it, I deal with it. No, it actually makes her happy. She's cool with it. Like she has no problem with it. No, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that. I'm not gonna say it doesn't exist out there, but I do believe it's rare. Okay, because the role of leader doesn't really speak to the heart of the woman, but it speaks to the heart of the man. Because as I said, it speaks to his confidence, right? Because think about one of the things that you hear a lot about men is how they want to feel valued and needed by their partner. So having a leadership role gives that man value. It gives that man purpose, right? And it allows him to have a level of respect built into the relationship. All of those things speak to that man's heart, right? And let me tell you, if you go look at a man who gets to be in that role and he's being appreciated and loved, and you go look at a man who's not in that role, right? And doesn't have that purpose in his relationship, you will see such a difference in how they carry themselves. And that by itself, their energy, the fact that this one is confident, feels good about who he is as a man, and this guy's over here even questioning himself, doesn't feel like a man, even says things like, she doesn't let me be a man, which is a whole nother issue in itself. But that man's energy is so off, and that in itself makes him less attractive to his partner and only compounds the existing issues in that relationship. So all of what I'm saying here is this, and I'm going to use the word natural order, and we're going to talk more about it later. This natural order of things really adds a greater level of fulfillment and balance to the relationship. And again, it speaks to his heart and allows him, to not just walk in his masculine, but to better navigate it as well. Now, I also want to say, because I don't think I said it earlier, please understand that we talk about men who can lead with love, right? So I just want to repeat, this ain't about being your dictator and what he says goes and you have no voice. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a man who leads with love and a man who allows God to lead him. But we'll dive into that more later. But this is just another huge benefit of letting that man lead you. All right, so we got a few more to go. And so another great benefit to letting a man lead you is that it frees you up to thrive elsewhere. So we talked about it in the first point, but let's dive a little more into it for a second. So again, like I said, leadership, having to make decisions, it can be an additional burden. It's an additional responsibility. And just the simple mental exhaustion of it can take you away or lessen your ability to be more effective in other areas. Because if you're too busy trying to put out all these fires in your relationship and handle all this stuff, well, let's just say you have kids. It can take away your ability to be as present for the kids because you're tired. You're just tired. It can take away your ability to pour into your partner because, again, you're tired. You're worn out. You're burnt out. It doesn't allow you to have the balance that you need for yourself, okay? But by removing certain responsibilities, and so don't even just look at it from the leadership perspective. It's really good and in everyone's best interest that if you're gonna be in a relationship, to try to define the roles that each person needs to master or be the head of. Because the reality is that even if you don't believe in gender roles, it's not about the specific genders, but when people can know their role and master their role, it can really create greater harmony and allow the team, that couple to thrive more. All right. But when you're trying to freestyle it, when it's like, well, we all just do the same things, it becomes a jack of all trades, master of none. No one's really getting good in a specific role because y'all sharing everything. Now, I think everyone should be capable of handling everything. So, for example, even if one person's role is to be mainly the cook, right? It doesn't mean the other person shouldn't learn how to cook. They should be capable just in case there's a day where the main cook needs a day off or is tired or whatever case may be. But we understand, okay, they handle that. And in return, the other person handles something else. We take certain burdens off of each other in a way that creates proper balance, but also allows us to master the lanes that we're in, right? And that makes everything so much more efficient and productive and better. So by letting that man lead, it will allow you to identify, okay, so what's the, now that I'm basically saving so much energy from not having to deal with these things, I can put this energy into the other things. All right. And that everybody wins. Everybody wins. So, yes, letting him lead will allow you to thrive in other areas of your life. All right. So, another huge benefit, and again, this is something that I've mentioned already, but we're just going to talk a little bit more about it. Another huge benefit to letting a man lead you is that it will be healthier for your mind and your body. So, as I discussed earlier, stress is a big deal. A lot of people are allowing stress to destroy them and deteriorate them mentally and physically. And a lot of it comes from, like, we already have a lot of things in this world being thrown at us, that we can't control. There's only so much we can do. But we have to do a better job of the things that we can control. And we have to do a better job of creating structure in our lives that allow us to navigate life in a more effective, efficient way. And so a lot of women who have to deal with being leaders in their relationship find themselves, and I just keep saying it, so it's like a broken record, they're overburdened and they're worn out, they're burnt out, and it starts to really take a toll. And what's kind of hitting my spirit right now is that forget just taking a toll as far as you being tired and worn out. It takes a toll because it can also open you up to unhealthy vices. All right. So for some people, because they're so stressed out, it leads to them eating poorly. And then that poor eating only leads to other unhealthy issues, and it just snowballs from there. For someone else, it might be turning to alcohol because they're trying to just get their mind off of things to where it becomes a problem, right? It can open the doors to many other issues. I don't think a lot of people realize sometimes how stress leads them into engaging in unhealthy habits and behaviors, okay? Because they're trying to just break free from it any way they can. And sometimes these vices, That's what they do for us, right? They pull us away from this reality that we're just trying to run from right now. But if we learned how to better manage that, that would not be the case. So allowing him to lead you, removing that stress is going to free you up mentally. It's going to be good for your body. But then let me also give the other side to this. In addition to handling the stress, because even if you are a woman that's letting that man lead, it doesn't mean you have an automatic stress-free life. I just want to mention to you, you still have to make sure you are pouring into yourself in the ways to help you manage stress better. So by eating better, by exercising, a great way of releasing stress, by maybe even having a period of time where you're praying and meditating. These things are very helpful. Finding ways, breathing exercises, all right? All of these things are great ways to bring that stress down in a very healthy manner. But that is one of the great benefits of it. Like, think about how good it would feel if you're in a relationship, something comes up, and your man's like, don't worry, baby, let me take care of this. You good. Just go rest. Think about that. Right? Now, again, some of y'all like, hell no, because some of y'all can't even fathom trusting a man to handle things, okay? But if you can learn to get into that mindset and embrace it, I'm telling you, you can bring forth more peace in your life. All right, so another great benefit to letting a man lead you is that it can lessen a lot of unnecessary conflicts. So one of the risks that comes along with the whole co-leadership approach is that co-leadership works beautifully as long as both parties are on the same page, or neither party feels strongly about their position, which happens to be in conflict with their partner, right? Because if they're not feeling strongly about it, then it's easier for people to just default and say, okay, you know what, we'll just do it your way. Cool. The problem is if the day comes where both parties feel very strongly about their position, and because there is no system in place and no default order of things on who ultimately will have to get the final say so here, you have now set the stage for a battle. Okay? And I've seen this battle happen tons of times. And unfortunately, I say it jokingly, but I say it, I'm being real. In many cases, when there is a battle between the man's position and the woman's position in the relationship, the woman's gonna get her way because the man is trying to avoid the conflict, and the woman will make him feel it if she doesn't get her way. I'm not saying that's all the time, but that's a lot of times, if not most of the times, okay? So for example, let's say she feels like the situation should be handled this way. He decides to do it his way. She may give him an attitude. He may have to sleep on the couch. He may not be getting none for a while. He's going to pay a consequence. Now, what this does is it now makes him, in many cases, default to her to avoid trouble. That's why you'll hear some of these men say, just whatever she says, just say yes, right? Because the mentality is, I don't want no problems. I don't want no issues. So let me just default to her. Now, what that does, initially, that might feel great to the woman. But in the long run, what that does now is he stops learning or mastering how to make decisions and be a leader. He gets into the habit of defaulting to the woman. And now if the day comes where she has too much going on and she doesn't want to deal with this and says, well, why don't you just go ahead and handle it? He doesn't know how to anymore. And boom, now everything falls apart. Now she's frustrated with him, and it just snowballs from there. So by having a structure of leadership, he's the leader, or even on how we come to certain decisions, how we break ties, okay? Because even if you don't want to fully embrace him leader, even though I think that's the best way, even if you don't want to fully embrace it, you still need to have structure and systems in place to plan for these types of moments to lessen the chance of conflict. All right. But the reason why I still push you towards letting the man lead you is because when you can get comfortable with enough with his decision-making process, because once by letting him lead, and then by him having enough opportunities to show those leadership skills and everything working out, it allows you to be more comfortable for the next situation that comes along. Okay. And again, that just completely lessens the chance of there being fights and issues, because you'll know by that point, okay, he knows how to make good decisions. I know he has our best interests at heart. I can let him handle it and I don't need to be stressed about it. You see what I'm saying? That's the best way to go. So, all that said, we can lessen a lot of conflict with him leading, or at the very least, proper structure and systems in place to handle these things. All right, now last but not least, another great benefit to letting a man lead you is it puts you in alignment with God's natural order. Now, of course, if you're not a believer, then this doesn't apply to you, okay? But for those who are, I must, let me not assume. The order that God has set for us is God, spouse, kids, work. I believe I got that correct, okay? And so it's important to understand that God, this is why we said it's about a man who can lead with love. It's about a man who can submit to God and allow God to lead him so that he can properly and more efficiently lead the wife. And that's another thing. Let me say this real quick. God don't know anything about boyfriend and girlfriend. So when I talk about letting a man lead you, though because of the way that we go about relationships in today's world, I think there's nothing wrong with practicing in a boyfriend-girlfriend committed relationship, but these principles were really made for marriage, okay? It's just keeping it real. But I do believe that God set that order for a reason, and it speaks to the strengths of both the average man and the average woman. Now, again, there's exceptions to every rule. And I understand that you can, like, there are some women out there who may literally feel good about leadership, right? Them being a leader. It might speak to their heart. And so I don't want to sit here and say, well, then they can't do things a different way, right? But for at least the vast majority, I do believe of believers, doing things in God's natural order is the best way. And I believe it's the blessed way. It's the blessed way, and it has a purpose. So if you are still at conflict with it, I think it would be good to pray, like talk to God, ask God, okay, why is this necessary? Pray about this video. Like, I don't expect y'all to watch any of my videos and just take it, run with it, and swear it's the gospel. I want you to pray about it. I want you to ask God, okay, is this information accurate? Is this coming from the right place? Should I be implementing these things? Should I be embracing these things? That's what's important, because at the end of the day, you connecting with spirit is ultimately the goal I want. I really want you to connect with spirit, connect with God, because I know that will ensure you're on the path you need to be on. But going back to this issue of letting the man lead you, I believe that, again, it will allow you to walk more in your purpose, whatever that purpose may be, by embracing the things in the way that God has set forth for us. And understand that he's doing it for a reason, and he's doing it for your protection. He's doing it for your peace. He's doing it for, look at it like this. God, the Father, he would want to put his daughters in the best position possible, just the way he want to put his sons in the best position possible. So I think it's something to embrace. I think it's something to talk to God about if you're at conflict with. But I do believe that in the end, in the long run, it is going to be in your best interest, right? Now, one of the things I have to say before we close out this video is this. This is one of the big reasons why I believe in men not getting into relationships until they can at least achieve stability in their life. Because it's going to be very hard for a man to come in with enough leadership skills and abilities if he hasn't established stability in his life. And the reason why there's so many women who can't hand over the responsibility of leadership to the man is because it accepted him at a time where he was still not the man he needed to be. All right? And if you had to carry him on your back, if you had to make him into a man, if you're responsible for his growth, well, then there's a very good chance that in that, he has not had to face the obstacles and adversity that would allow him to develop the skills to make better decisions, to take your feelings into consideration, and to move forward in a way that is best. And so that's why I'm not trying to demean or devalue men if they don't have a certain amount of money or whatever, because it's not about money, rich, it's about stability and being able to stand on your own 2 feet. So if you have any hesitancy or you're questioning, well, these men can't, well, it's just let them figure themselves out first. Like there's a great quote that says, let God make a man out of him before you try to make him a husband. And I think if you do that, you'll be good to go. Thank you for watching this video. I pray it was helpful to you. Be sure to watch this one over here on 7 things a woman should never do for a man. You may have done it, or you might be doing it right now, right? I just need you to be aware. I need you to understand there's always a way to correct the mistakes.